Welcome to part 2 in the series for building a website in progressive steps. In this part we're going to be talking about the header and the footer areas as well as building them in Photoshop at the same time. So let's go ahead and get started. Now as you can see, the logo has already been created for you. So we'll just copy it into our new project once it's created. Let's go ahead and create our new project. We'll call it progressive theme, or you can name it whatever you like. Set the width to 1200 and the height to 2408. Now in the wireframe we set the width to 980, but keep in mind that wireframes are merely reference points and don't have to be taken verbatim. And the 1200 width actually gives us more dimensions to work with, and users with larger resolutions aren't left out. Okay, so now that we have our new canvas created, what we want to do now is create a 960 pixel rectangle. If you look in the info box on the right hand side, you can find the width anytime you create a new shape. Press Ctrl+A to select everything, then select Align Vertical Centers. And now that our rectangle is in the center, we can grab our ruler and set a mark on each side. Once your marks are set, go ahead and delete the rectangle so you end up with a nice guideline for building inside the constraints of 960 pixels. Now that you set up your canvas, go ahead and save your document, and remember to save frequently. The most important place to put a logo, since that's what we're going to be dealing with next, is on the left side of the header. Having a logo for your header helps keep your icon in the eyes of the user at all times. And because tradition breeds convention, for navigation purposes, it's helpful to make your logo a homepage link. Users are often inclined to click on a logo or header to get back to the home page. So it's wise to use an image as opposed to making the logo a part of the background. Now let's go ahead and grab the logo that's already created and see where the best place to put it is. Right click on the logo group and select Duplicate Group. Select your project, Progressive Theme, and click OK. Go back to the project and now you can see the logo. Now there are many ways to align your logo. You can put it on the left, in the center, or on the right side of the header. However, it's not just a theory but a proven fact that putting the logo on the left increases brand recognition, because that's simply where users expect it to be. You should make your logo a link, since many users like to click on it, as we discussed before, to get back to the home page. The next thing we need to do is create a folder for our groups for all of our pages. The first group is the master group, which will primarily hold the header and the footer. Following is the home page, which will hold the featured and priority content section. Then are the about, blog, and contact pages. Putting your pages in groups like this helps organize your project, keeps everything in one file, and lets you easily hide any page that you're not working on by clicking on the eye next to each group. Now that we've created the main groups, create a new group and drag it inside of the master group, then name it header. Now take the logo group and place it inside the header, since it's universal across all pages. Press Ctrl+S to save your work, and again remember to save frequently. Grab the rectangle tool to create the background of the header. The rectangle should be around 1221 pixels in width and exactly 131 pixels in height. Again, you can look in the info box on the right to find your dimensions. Press enter when done. Move the layer below the logo to put the background behind it. Now that the background is created, you can deselect the layer to get a clear picture of what it looks like. Select the logo and press Ctrl+T for transform. We want to move the logo about 71 pixels on the y-axis. Once you've got it, press enter and submit your changes. So you have a nice solid background, but we want to add some effects. Right click on the backgrounds layer and select blending options. Select the gradient overlay and let's change the in color. That color is going to be 948C7C. Press OK and change the scale from 100 to 82. Sorry, I closed it. Go ahead and open it up again and select the gradient itself. We want to move the gradient far enough above the header to get a nice color fade without it being too intrusive on our design. That looks pretty nice, so that's how we'll keep it. So go ahead and close the blending options. Now we have a nice background. Next, the header needs to be closed off with a separator. So go ahead and select the master group and grab the line tool. As you drag, hold down Shift and keep the line straight and drag it across the entire page. Press Ctrl T to transform the line and move it up to 132.5 pixels on the Y-axis. Now you can deselect the line once you're done with that and see that we have a nice separator. Let's make the color a bit lighter, so double click and for the color put in E6, E4, E4 and press enter. Now the line is blended in better. Lastly, set the weight to 1 pixel and put the layer inside the header group. It's important to separate the header like this, making the content much easier to scan for your users. Now create a new group inside the header group and call it login. Our login is going to be on the top right of the header, so select the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle that's about 110 pixels by 18 pixels. Remember to use the info box to find the dimensions. That looks pretty good. Now double click the layer and change the color to white. Then right click and select blending options so we can add a sky blue stroke. So select the color on the stroke and put in E0 DD E0. Then submit your changes. We need two inputs after you're done with this, so hold down Alt, click and drag to duplicate the rectangle. Move it over a little bit and select the text tool, then type in username. Now select the color and change it to CCC and press OK. Change the font to Tahoma, make the size regular and set it to 10 points. After you've done that, select the move tool and move the text to inside of the input box, just like so. Go ahead and duplicate the layer for password, which goes inside the other input box. Putting the text inside the input boxes saves space, and it also helps direct users to easily log in. Select the type tool again and type login, making it easy for users to find. Now double click to select the text and set the weight to 11 points. Let's make the color a little more fitting to our design. So select the color and put it at 948 C7C. Go ahead and move the layer next to the input boxes as evenly spaced as you can. Now putting the login on the top right of the header makes it easier to find while not intruding on other elements of the design. This is common practice and I recommend it over putting the login anywhere else. Now create a new group inside the login group and call it button. Select the rounded rectangle tool, keeping in mind to watch the info box, and draw a rectangle about 43 by 24 pixels. Then press enter to submit. That looks pretty good there. Now we want the button to match our theme, so we're going to choose one of the colors from the logo. Select the button layer and set the color to 00 B4FF. Now select the effects and take off the stroke because we want to create a drop shadow. And set the opacity to 100. Take off global lighting and change the color to B9 C1 C1. Change the angle of our shadow to 90 degrees and set the spread to 0. Now create an inner glow. We'll simply say change the size of the inner glow to 1 pixel, and the range will make 1%. And that's it. Now you should save your document. Remember to save frequently. Select the type tool to write Go in all caps. Set the color to white. Change the font to Verdana to match our Tahoma Verdana theme we've got going here. Then set the weight to 15 points in bold. Now move the text inside of the button, and then you're good to go. If you want to make sure the text is in the center, you can select the button and text layer, then press Ctrl A to select everything and select Align Horizontal Centers and Align Vertical Centers. Now let's make the login as symmetrical as we can to the design by selecting the login group and moving it within the 960 pixels we have set. Press Ctrl plus T and move it down to about 30 pixels on the y-axis, putting the bottom of the login in line with the top of the logo. Take a few seconds to even out the login elements. Alright, and now we have that, so that should be pretty good now. Okay, so we have most of our header together, so let's create a new group. And we'll call it Menu. This group goes inside the header group as well. Select the text tool and write out Home. Select the text and let's change the color to 948 C7C. Go ahead and set the font size to 14 points. Then select the Move tool and position the home link just like so. Then hold down Alt, click and drag, copying the layer 3 times. One for About, one for Contact, and one for Blog. After you've done that, select all 4 layers. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, now after you've done that, select all 4 layers by picking the top layer, holding down Shift, and then picking the bottom layer. Line up the links by selecting Align Vertical Centers, and then Align Horizontal Centers. Now we need to create some spacing between the links to make it more symmetrical with our design. Also, putting the menu on the top right goes well with our hierarchical structure. First, the structure in the logo is the logo, and then the menu is second. So after spacing out the links, select Distribute Horizontal Centers. And now our spacing can be even between all the menu links. Now you can drag the menu so that the last item lines up with the edge of the login button and raise it up, creating space for the active link indicator. So let's look at the logo group and find out which arrow is smallest, which we've already done. Then hold Alt, dragging, and copy it. Then this will be used as our indicator. Put the put it underneath the home link, and then press Control T, and then move it up below the home. Now we have an indicator for any links in the menu that are active or hovered over. The importance of indicators is so that users can easily navigate your site without having to do a lot of guesswork. It can actually be considered bad practice not to include some sort of indicator because of accessibility. Now you can select all the menu items again and line them up if not done already. So this is what the header looks like. It's clean, simple, and easy to use. We've put the logo on the left hand side, which creates the most brand exposure while reducing clutter, making it easily accessible and staying within the confines of a good hierarchical structure, all at the same time. And that's what I call killing multiple birds with one stone. Now the login is on the right, allowing plenty of white space. It's also unobtrusive enough to be easily accessible without taking up hardly any space. So as you can see, with this setup we have plenty of white space in the middle, which is desirable and is exactly what we want. Then we have the menu on the bottom of the right side of the header, with the size and width making it second in the hierarchical structure, and the login barely a factor. The text color comes from the logo, and the indicator makes use of a logo element, tying everything together seamlessly. A nice color scheme that's consistent can go a long way in impressing your visitors. Too many colors, usually more than 3, not counting black and white, can really throw people off and turn them away, as it's a huge strain on the eyes. Okay, so now that we've completed the header and learned a little bit about it, let's move on to the footer. Alright, so we need to close a few things here. Alright, now go ahead and create a new group and call it footer. Make sure it's inside the master group. First off, we'll create the copyright message. If you hold Alt and press 069, that will create your copyright symbol. Alt 0169. Now write out the rest of the message, which is 2011 your company, and of course all rights reserved. Okay, now select the text. Now let me look at my notes here. We're going to want to change the color to white. Now change the font to Verdana and make the font size 10 points. Now pick up the move tool and just move the message somewhere near the bottom of your canvas. Next, we're going to grab the rectangle tool and draw one out that's about 1206 pixels by 446 pixels. The height is the only one that needs to be specific here. Okay, there we go. Now grab the move tool and move the rectangle up until it fits within the canvas. Alright, this background needs a new color to match our theme. So that color is going to be 77064. Alright, that looks good. Okay, select the rectangle tool again and draw a shape that's 1202 by 388. Again, the height only needs to be specific. This area is going to actually hold our links and newsletter, while the first background will have the copyright and create some color separation in the footer. Now press Ctrl plus T and move the rectangle to 2166.5 pixels on the y-axis. It must be this in order to keep everything balanced and even. Now select the layer color and change it to 948C7C. After changing the color, bring up the blending options and take out the stroke. Create an inner glow, make the opacity 100%, and change the color to 473F30. Change the size of the glow to 1 pixel and the range to 1%. Next, we need to create a gradient overlay and change the start color to 948C7C. Then change the end color to 625D52 and then submit your changes. Now grab the gradient directly after you've submit your changes and move it outside of the header just far enough to get a complement with a color fade rather than intrude on our color scheme. and close blending options when you're done. Now select the rectangle tool again. Make the rectangle something like 557 by 67. Remember to use the info box. Go to your filters, blur, and this is going to be a radial blur. Press OK to rasterize. The default settings will be fine on this one. Press OK and you should see the shape change like you see here. The opacity for this shape should be about 9%. And make sure to eliminate the stroke from the effects on this layer. Alright, awesome. We've created a nice screen which adds a slight bevel to our footer, really taking away any flatness that was there before. Now press Ctrl T and move the layer to about 1978 pixels on the y-axis, and then press Enter to submit your changes. Now you can grab the copyright layer and put it above everything else in the footer so you can actually see it. Move it to the edge, align it in the center of the background, and done. So now the footer is coming together quite nicely. We need to create a new group and then call it links. Links are an important part of the footer and should be required in every project. They also act as sort of a sitemap since they're easily accessible on every page. Now select the line tool, hold down Shift and draw a line about this long. Change the color to 9FC5D4. Now pull up the blending options and create an inner bevel. Get rid of the stroke and create a overlay, or color overlay I should say. Make the color 9FC5D4. Press OK and then submit your changes and deselect the line, and you can see we have a nice blue separator to go with our color scheme. Now grab the Move tool, hold Alt, click and drag to copy the separator 5 times. Now grab the Type tool and write out link. You can hold Shift and use the left arrow key to select the text and change the color to DCF3FC. Change the font to Tahoma. Make the font size 14 points. Grab the Move tool again, hold Alt, click and drag to copy the link 4 times now. Pick up the Type tool again and create the title. Then select the text and change the color to white. Now set the font to Verdana and the size to 20 points. Well, I didn't mean to change the leading here, but it doesn't make a difference. So select the Move tool and place the title on the edge of the ruler. Then press Ctrl+T and move it to about 20-35 pixels on the y-axis. Press Enter when done. Spend a few seconds evening out the spacing for the links like I'm doing here. Now select all the links, then align horizontal centers, then distribute vertical centers to space them out evenly. Grab the links and move them to the edge of the ruler. Now we want to space the separators out, so select all separators, which is Shift plus click, and move them in line with the links. Again, select align horizontal centers and distribute vertical centers to space them out evenly. After that, select each separator one at a time, and using your down and up arrow keys, move each one below and above each link evenly, as I'm doing here. Once you're done, you'll get a nice uniform look to your footer while providing useful links for your users at the same time. Press Ctrl+F to save, which I hope you've been doing throughout this entire tutorial. Now that you've done that, select everything except for the title and create a bit of separation away from it. We need 2 more groups of links, so select the links group. Hold Alt, click and drag to copy 3 times, or twice actually. Move the groups like so to create more room on the right hand side for the newsletter. There we go. Now hold shift to select all the link groups. Then select align horizontal centers and distribute vertical centers to space them out evenly. Now create a new group and call it newsletter. And select the type tool and write some intro text. If you happen to have a newsletter, the footer is always a good place to stash it. It's easily accessible and out of the way, plus having it in the footer could remind people to sign up since it's on every page. Now select the text and align it to the left, then change the color to E7, 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 a light gray to blend it with our footer, and change the font to Verdana and the font size to 12 points. Now select the Move tool and move the intro text to the edge of the ruler and aligned with the top of the title for the links. Select the Type tool again and in big letters tell them to subscribe by changing the font weight to bold and the size to 18 points. Now we need an input box by selecting the Rectangle tool and drawing one that's about 224 by 24 pixels. That looks good. Now pull up the blending options and create an inner shadow. Its opacity is 100% and the color is 949595. Set the distance to 1 pixel and the size to 3. Get rid of the bevel and change the color overlay to 636364. Now create a 1 pixel stroke with the color 9FD5D4 and submit your changes. Now we have a complementing input box for the footer. Now select the Type tool and write out email, letting your users know that they can enter their email to receive the newsletter. Change the text color to DAD 8D8. Make the font size 12 points with a regular weight. Grab the Move tool and place the text inside the input boxes evenly as you can. Now we need a Submit button, so look for the button inside the Login group and copy it. Drag the button, copy to the footer group, then to the newsletter group. Don't waste large amounts of time by creating the same thing over and over, which ironically has been done in this tutorial, but that's to make it easy as possible for you to follow. Grab each element in the newsletter. Once you're done with that, so go ahead and grab each element in the newsletter and space them out as evenly as you can, like I'm doing here. Now for the button, we need to make the glow a bit sharper. So open the blending options for the buttons, background layer, and set the drop shadow size to 0, and do the same for the inner glow. Now, after you've done that, there's a sharp outline on the bottom, on the button, to keep the footer looking clean. Okay, so we created our newsletter, and the footer looks really nice by now. Everything is evenly spaced, properly aligned, and maintains a consistent color scheme. So let's move on. Create a new group inside the footer and call it Social. This is where I'll be adding a few social icons such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, each of which are going to be 51 by 51 pixels and placed below the newsletter. And they're also going to be aligned with the bottom of the link groups. And do keep in mind the info box to get the dimensions. Social networking is very important for staying connected and marketing to your user base. Nowadays, a website could be looked at as less credible if it doesn't have a social networking presence on at least one of the major networks. Okay, after you have your icons ready to go, let's go ahead and select each one and space them out just a little bit. Now select all the icons and select align horizontal centers and distribute vertical centers to space them out evenly. And finally, align the social icons with the left edge of the newsletter group. Alright, and that's it for the footer. I'd like to thank you for watching this part 2 of our series of tutorials, and I hope you stay tuned for part 3, where we will discuss the featured content area as well as the priority content areas on the home page. And then part 4 will cover all of our other pages. So I hope you got something out of it, and I hope to see you next time. So bye bye for now.